Stop. Breathe. And answer me one thing with complete honesty: do you truly believe you deserve to be rich? Not what you tell everyone, not what you post on social media. What you feel deep down, when no one is watching. Because that's exactly the answer that's determining your bank account right now. Let me ask you a question that could change everything. What if the problem wasn't a lack of money, but the frequency you emit every time you think about it? Sounds crazy, right? But neuroscience, quantum physics, and even biblical teachings have confirmed what Napoleon Hill wrote decades ago: everything in the universe is energy, including wealth, including your prosperity, including what you attract or repel every day without realizing it. The truth no one told you is simple and terrifying at the same time. You can work hard, save money, study finance, and still remain in the same place. Not because you are incapable, but because there is an invisible energy field operating within you, programmed in your subconscious, sabotaging every step towards abundance. It's like trying to plug an appliance into the wrong outlet. The power is there, but the connection is wrong. In this video, we'll delve deep into teachings that truly transform people's relationship with money, not with empty promises, but with real principles of financial alignment, mental reprogramming, and financial manifestation. You'll understand why your vibrational frequency determines what comes to you, and what to do starting today to change that field from the inside out. Do you know that feeling when money slips through your fingers like sand? You receive it, but before you know it, it's gone. A bill to pay here, an unexpected expense there, and at the end of the month the story repeats itself. Many people believe this is bad luck, lack of discipline, or simply life being difficult. But quantum physics shows us something much deeper. There's a financial block operating silently within you, installed in your subconscious long before you're even aware of it. This blockage has no face, but it has a voice, and that voice says things like money is hard to earn, the rich are those born with a silver spoon in their mouths, or I don't deserve to prosper. Napoleon Hill warned back in the 1930s that the biggest barrier to wealth isn't in the market, the economy, or luck, it's in the mind. Every limiting belief you carry acts like an inverted magnet, pushing away exactly what you say you want. It's an energetic field of scarcity that you feed every day without realizing it. The good news, and what good news at ISIS, that programmed blocks can be unprogrammed. Modern neuroscience confirms that the brain is neuroplastic, meaning it changes. With the right mental reprogramming practices, you begin to dissolve these layers of scarcity and open up space for a genuine abundance mindset. But before learning how to reprogram, you need to understand what's written between the lines of Napoleon Hill's teachings, and that's exactly what comes next. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years studying the world's wealthiest minds, and what he discovered goes far beyond the business strategies most people remember. In the subtext of Think and Grow Rich, there is a powerful spiritual truth that few stop to truly absorb. Wealth begins as a state of being, not as a state of having. Hill wasn't just talking about financial techniques, she was describing universal laws of energy and financial manifestation that govern anyone's life, regardless of context. One of the most underrated concepts in his work is what he called burning desire. And look, he wasn't talking about wanting money the way we want ice cream on a hot day. He was talking about a vibrational frequency so intense, so aligned with prosperity, that the subconscious can no longer distinguish desire from reality. Quantum physics calls this wave function collapse, when observation changes the outcome. Biblical teachings call it faith, the assurance of things hoped for. Hill called it conscious autosuggestion. Different names, same universal law. The underlying secret is that Hill knew the conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg. The true engine of wealth operates in the subconscious, in that deep place where your beliefs about money, worthiness, and spiritual abundance are ingrained. Understanding this changes everything, because from then on you stop fighting the current and start working with it. And speaking of the subconscious, I will show you exactly how to reprogram yours in just 7 days. Imagine your subconscious is a garden. Everything planted in it throughout your life, the phrases you heard in childhood, your family's beliefs about money, the experiences of scarcity you lived through, has become a seed. And a planted seed grows. If what was planted was money is hard to come by, the rich don't enter the kingdom of heaven, or we weren't born to be rich, guess what's blooming now? An energetic field of rejection of wealth, operating 24 hours a day, sabotaging every opportunity that knocks on your door. Neuroscience calls this core beliefs, and they are more powerful than any financial planning you can do. Mental reprogramming begins with a simple yet transformative step: identifying what's already ingrained. For 7 days, set aside 10 minutes before bed to write down in a notebook all the phrases you hear in your own head when you think about money. No judgment, no censorship, just observation. On the 4th day, you'll be surprised by what you find. Napoleon Hill called this practice directed self-awareness, and it's the foundation of any real financial alignment process. You can't change what you can't see. Starting on the 5th day, you begin the replacement process. Each identified limiting belief is given an opposing affirmation, written with emotion and repeated aloud morning and night. Money is hard to come by becomes prosperity flows to me with ease and gratitude. Sounds too simple. Quantum physics shows that repetition with emotion creates new neural patterns, literally rewriting the code of your subconscious. In 7 days you won't be a millionaire, but you will feel a real change in your vibrational frequency. And when the frequency changes, what you attract also changes. But what do millionaires feel that you don't yet feel? That's what comes next. If you could spend a day inside the mind of a millionaire, the first thing that would surprise you wouldn't be the size of their bank account, it would be their emotional state. People who live in true abundance carry a constant feeling that everything will work out, that opportunities abound, and that they deserve every achievement that comes their way. It's not arrogance, it's vibrational frequency. Neuroscience explains that the brain in a state of gratitude and confidence releases dopamine and serotonin hormones that literally expand the perception of possibilities and sharpen the ability to make decisions that generate wealth. Napoleon Hill observed this in each of the most prosperous men he studied and concluded something fascinating: fortune doesn't create the mental state creates fortune. Andrew Carnegie didn't wake up anxious thinking about how to pay the bills. He woke up with the unwavering certainty that success was inevitable. This abundance mindset wasn't naivete, it was a daily choice, cultivated like a muscle. Biblical teachings reinforce this when they say, as he thinks in his heart, so is he. That is, your financial reality is a faithful reflection of your internal energy field. The practice to develop this vibrational state begins with a powerful question you ask yourself every morning: how would I feel if I had already achieved the prosperity I desire? And then pay attention here. You don't just think the answer, you feel it in your body. Take a deep breath, smile, expand your chest. Quantum physics shows us that the body doesn't distinguish between real experience and vividly imagined experience. The same neural circuits are activated. This is how you begin to emit the frequency of wealth even before you have it. And speaking of feeling gratitude, I will reveal to you how it works as the most powerful money magnet that exists. Gratitude is perhaps the most underestimated tool on the path to prosperity, and also the most misunderstood. Most people think that being grateful is simply saying thank you from time to time, as a social protocol. But true gratitude, practiced with intention and depth, is one of the highest and most powerful vibrational frequencies a human being can emit. Quantum physics shows us that everything is energy in motion, and genuine gratitude raises your energy field to a level where spiritual and material abundance simply encounters less resistance in reaching you. Napoleon Hill dedicated an entire chapter of his work to the power of the mind applied with positive emotion, and gratitude is at the top of that list. Biblical teachings also leave no doubt. Give thanks in all circumstances is not just spiritual advice, it's an instruction for financial alignment. When you are grateful for the little you have, you send your subconscious the message that abundance already exists in your life, and the subconscious, the faithful programmer that it is, works tirelessly to confirm this belief. It's like saying to the universe, I recognize what I already have, and I am ready for more. The practice that nobody talks about is what I call prospective gratitude, being grateful not only for what you already have, but for what is still to come. Every day, upon waking, write down 3 things you are grateful for today and 3 future financial achievements as if they have already happened. I am grateful for my doubled income. I am grateful for my financial freedom. Do this with real emotion, not as homework. Neuroscience confirms that this exercise recalibrates the brain to see opportunities that previously went unnoticed. Sounds simple? It is. But very few people do it, and that's exactly why very few people truly prosper. What if I told you that the problem isn't a lack of gratitude, but rather that you're on the wrong frequency? That's what comes next. I need to tell you something that might sound harsh at first, but is actually the most liberating news you'll hear today. You are not poor. Poverty is not an identity, it's not a destiny, and it's certainly not a permanent sentence. What exists is a vibrational frequency of scarcity that has been tuned in over the years by family, by society, by painful experiences with money, and that has been looping in your subconscious like a radio stuck on the wrong station. The difference between this perspective and the common one is enormous, because one paralyzes you and the other liberates you. Neuroscience confirms that the human brain operates in patterns, and patterns can be changed. When you grow up hearing that money doesn't grow on trees or that we're poor but honest, these phrases don't just stay in your emotional memory. They become active programs in your energy field, shaping your decisions, your reactions, and even the people you attract. Napoleon Hill called this poverty consciousness a mental state so deeply ingrained that a person begins to unconsciously sabotage themselves every time prosperity approaches. It's the cruelest financial block because it operates from the inside out. The turning point begins the moment you stop identifying with scarcity and start identifying with the abundance that hasn't yet arrived, but is already yours by right of frequency. Biblical teachings say that the earth was formless and empty before creation, and yet there was infinite potential there. You may be experiencing financial emptiness right now, but that doesn't define what you are capable of manifesting. Replace "I am poor" with "I am adjusting my frequency," and observe how this simple change in language begins to reorganize your abundance mindset from the inside out. And speaking of mapping this path, I'm going to show you how burning desire activates your energetic field of prosperity. Napoleon Hill didn't choose the word ardent by chance. He could have said strong desire, intense desire, deep desire, but he chose ardent. Because ardent desire burns, transforms, consumes what was solid, and releases energy. Ardent desire is not that lukewarm wish of "it would be nice to have more money" that most people carry. It is a conviction so intense, so alive in the body and mind, that the subconscious begins to treat the desired prosperity not as a distant dream, but as a reality in the process of manifestation. It is the difference between wishing and declaring, and that difference changes everything in your energy field. Quantum physics presents us with a fascinating concept called directed intention. When the mind focuses intensely on a specific outcome, it begins to influence the surrounding quantum field, creating synchronicities, opening doors, and attracting people who wouldn't have appeared before. Biblical teachings call this asking in faith that you have already received, not a hesitant request, but a declaration of unwavering faith. The prosperity map that Hill describes begins with a clear destination: how much you want, by when, and what you are willing to offer in return. Without this map, the law of attraction has no coordinates to work with. The practical application is creating what Hill called a definite purpose statement, a sentence written in the first person, in the present tense, describing your desired financial reality with rich detail and genuine emotion. The model is simple and powerful. I, until the deadline you choose, have in my possession the amount you desire, which has come to me through my work in your field, and in return I offer dedication, consistency, and valuable service. Fill in the blanks with your reality, your dream, and your deadline. Need specific, because the subconscious doesn't work with vagueness, it works with clear and detailed instructions. Read this statement aloud twice a day, in the morning upon waking and at night before sleeping, with the emotion of someone who has already achieved everything described. This is not an illusion, it's mental reprogramming based on real principles of financial alignment. And if burning desire is the fuel, What follows is the silence that amplifies all of this in a way that will surprise you. We live in an age of constant noise, notifications, social media, news, opinions from all sides, and this noise has a very high cost that almost no one calculates. It disconnects you from your own energy field. Napoleon Hill dedicated daily time to what he called silent consultation with infinite intelligentsia, a moment of intentional stillness where the conscious mind stopped chattering and the subconscious could finally communicate. It wasn't empty mysticism, it was a deliberate practice of financial alignment that the most prosperous men in history had in common. Neuroscience explains this phenomenon precisely. When the brain enters the alpha wave state, that relaxed state between wakefulness and sleep, achieved through meditation and deep silence, the barrier between the conscious and subconscious mind becomes more permeable. It is in this state that the best ideas emerge, solutions appear out of nowhere, and intuition speaks loudest. Quantum physics goes further and suggests that in this state of stillness, the human mind becomes more receptive to the information patterns of the quantum field, that invisible field where all possibilities for prosperity and wealth already exist before manifesting in physical reality. The practice is simpler than it seems and more powerful than you imagine. Set aside 15 minutes a day, preferably in the morning, before any screens or conversations. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and simply observe your breathing. When thoughts come, don't fight them, just let them pass like clouds. In the last 3 minutes, with your mind already quiet, visualize your life in full spiritual and financial abundance. Feel the gratitude, feel the lightness, feel the fortune as something already present. Biblical teachings call this space the secret place of the Most High, and it is there that financial manifestation begins before any external action. But be aware, silence prepares the ground, but there is a specific action that most people forget to take, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Let me ask you an honest question. Have you ever spent hours visualizing, affirming, and asking the universe, and at the end of the month your bank account remained the same? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. Millions of people practice the law of attraction incompletely, as if the universe were a vending machine where you insert your order and wait for the product to fall. But Hill was surgical on this point. The universe doesn't respond to requests, it responds to states. It's not what you ask for that determines what you attract, it's what you feel, radiate. And radiating prosperity is completely different from asking for it. The difference between asking and radiating lies in the energy field each generates. When you ask, your vibrational frequency implicitly carries the message that you don't yet have it, and the subconscious, faithful to what it receives, confirms exactly that absence. It's like praying desperately instead of praying with faith. The biblical teachings are clear: whatever you ask for in prayer, believing, you will receive. Quantum physics calls this the collapse of the wave function into the desired state. You don't observe what you want as the future, you experience it as the present. This subtle shift in posture completely transforms your financial manifestation. Instead of asking what to do is simple and revolutionary at the same time. Embody it. Start acting, thinking, feeling, speaking, and moving like someone who already lives in abundance. We're not talking about spending what you don't have, we're talking about adopting a millionaire mindset in your daily life. Study finance and investments like someone who already has assets to manage. Take care of your current money with respect and gratitude, however small it may be. Dress well, keep your space organized, make decisions with the confidence of someone who has already prospered. Napoleon Hill called this acting as if, and neuroscience confirms that the brain responds to this behavior by reorganizing its circuits towards an abundance mindset. And speaking of states that block or release prosperity, I will reveal the 3 emotions that most sabotage your wealth and how to dissolve them once and for all. If prosperity is a frequency, emotions are the dial that tunes or detunes that frequency at every moment. And there are 3 specific emotions that act as true short circuits in your energy field, preventing spiritual and material abundance from reaching you, no matter how much you visualize, affirm, or plan. The first of these is fear, and here I need to be very specific because this fear doesn't have a single face, it wears several masks at the same time. There's the obvious fear of failure, of course, but there's also the subtle, disguised fear of prospering, that silent fear of what will change in your relationships, your identity, and your life if the money actually arrives. There's the fear of losing money, which paralyzes the person before they even begin and which, disguised as prudence, is actually scarcity operating as protection. There's the fear of investing, which keeps money stagnant in a zone of false security while inflation and time silently erode any possibility of building real wealth. There is the fear of making mistakes, perhaps the most treacherous of all because it disguises itself as perfectionism, responsibility, and care, but at its core it is pure paralysis. A person who fears making mistakes never takes risks, never decides, never acts and remains eternally preparing to prosper without ever taking the first real step towards abundance. And there is perhaps the most powerful of all, the fear of leaving the comfort zone, that gilded prison where life isn't good, but at least it's known, predictable, and safe enough not to demand change. All these fears share the same energetic root. They send the subconscious the message that prosperity is dangerous, that growth comes at too high a price, that it's better to stay where you are than to risk the unknown. And the subconscious, the faithful programmer that it is, ensures that you never get close to what you fear. This invisible army of fears silently and devastatingly blocks financial manifestation, and dissolving them one by one is the first and most powerful step in releasing the flow of abundance that has been dammed up inside you for so long. The second emotion is guilt. This is one of the most common in people raised in religious or family contexts where wealth was viewed with suspicion. Money is the root of all evil is perhaps the most misinterpreted phrase in biblical teachings. The original text says that excessive love of money is problematic, not money itself. When you carry guilt for wanting to prosper, your subconscious understands that wealth is dangerous and activates self-sabotaging mechanisms to protect you from it. This guilt doesn't stay quiet. It generates a silent and devastating companion called anxiety. And here is the vicious cycle that very few people can see. Guilt for wanting money generates anxiety, anxiety generates impulsive or paralyzing financial decisions, wrong decisions generate more guilt, and guilt generates more anxiety, an energetic loop of scarcity that feeds back on itself infinitely without the person realizing what is happening inside them. When this cycle continues uninterrupted, it transforms into something even more serious and silent: chronic stress. And here the correlation becomes devastating. Neuroscience proves that chronic stress continuously and prolongedly raises cortisol levels in the body, and chronically elevated cortisol not only destroys physical health, it literally shrinks the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for memory, learning, and strategic decision-making. In other words, the longer you live stressed, the less brain capacity you have to create the solutions that will get you out of this situation. It's a perfect biological trap. The problem creates the conditions that prevent the solution. Anxiety distorts the perception of reality, chronic stress erases the ability to think clearly, and guilt keeps the energy field closed to any vibrational frequency of abundance and prosperity. These three states together form what I call the triangle of scarcity, and as long as you are trapped inside it, no affirmation, visualization, or financial planning can break through this blockage. Neuroscience shows that the only way out of this triangle begins with the conscious recognition of these patterns, because you cannot dissolve what you do not see, and you cannot see what you have never named. The third emotion is resentment, especially resentment toward wealthy people. Every time you look at someone prosperous and feel anger, destructive envy, or judgment, you are sending your subconscious a powerful message: wealth is something bad. And the subconscious, ever faithful, ensures that you never become what you condemn. Napoleon Hill was emphatic: you will never attract what you reject. Dissolving these three emotions begins with a simple exercise: identify which one is most present in you, write about it without judgment, and practice forgiveness, both of yourself and others. Real financial alignment only happens when the energy field is cleared of these emotional layers. And speaking of layers, I will reveal something your own body is communicating about your vibrational frequency, something you've probably never stopped to observe. Hey, race, a truth few mentors dare to say: your body doesn't lie. While your mouth affirms prosperity, your posture, your breathing, your gestures, and even the tone of your voice may be screaming scarcity at a frequency the universe picks up even before your words. Neuroscience calls this somatic incongruence. When what you say and what your body expresses are in conflict, the subconscious always wins. It's like trying to convince someone you're happy while your shoulders are hunched, your breath is shallow, and your gaze is on the ground. The energy field you emit is composed much more of body language than the affirmations you repeat. Napoleon Hill spoke about the importance of enthusiasm, and enthusiasm isn't just a mental emotion, it's a complete physical experience. People who live with an abundance mindset move differently, breathe differently, occupy space differently. Not out of arrogance, but because their bodies are aligned with the vibrational frequency they cultivate internally. Quantum physics shows us that every cell in the human body emits and receives electromagnetic information. Literally, you are a walking frequency transmitter. And if that transmitter is configured for scarcity through muscle tension, shallow breathing, and a closed posture, no verbal affirmation will be enough to change the signal you are sending to the universe. The practice of body realignment begins with 3 simple and immediate changes. First, every time you talk about money, finances, or prosperity, straighten your spine, take a deep breath, and smile slightly before you begin. This instantly recalibrates your energy field. Second, make it a habit to take a daily 20-minute walk with an upright posture and firm steps, visualizing abundance with each step. Physical movement anchors mental reprogramming in the body. Third, when making your affirmations, place your hand on your heart and feel the warmth of gratitude radiating from your chest. Biblical teachings have always associated the heart with the center of faith and belief, and neuroscience confirms that the heart has its own neural network capable of influencing the brain. When body and mind vibrate at the same frequency of wealth, financial manifestation ceases to be effort and becomes a natural flow. And this flow can be amplified exponentially by a specific ritual that you can begin tonight, and that's exactly what comes next. There is a window of opportunity that opens every night, and that most people completely waste the 10 minutes before bedtime. During this period, the brain naturally transitions from the beta state, which is agitated and analytical, to the theta state, that deep and receptive state where the barrier between the conscious and subconscious mind practically disappears. It is the golden window of mental reprogramming, the moment when any seed of prosperity, abundance, and wealth planted with genuine emotion is absorbed by the subconscious with a depth impossible to achieve during the day. Napoleon Hill knew this and advised his readers to use this moment with precise and deliberate intention. Modern neuroscience confirms that during sleep, especially in REM phases, the brain processes and consolidates information absorbed before falling asleep, literally recording in the subconscious what was the last conscious emotional experience of the day. This means that if you fall asleep watching negative news, scrolling through social media feeds, or ruminating on financial worries, that's exactly what your brain consolidates as reality during the night. But if you fall asleep in a state of gratitude, visualizing prosperity and financial alignment, the energy field that awakens with you the next morning is completely different. The Bible, in Psalm 12:72, says He grants this to His beloved while they sleep. The deepest transformation happens when the conscious mind rests. The nightly ritual that will reprogram your mind for wealth has 5 simple steps. First, turn off all screens 15 minutes before bed. Second, write down 3 financial achievements of the day in your prosperity journal, however small, celebrate them with genuine gratitude. Third, read aloud your definite purpose statement, that phrase that describes your desired financial reality in the present. Fourth, close your eyes and spend 5 minutes visualizing your life in full abundance. Feel the smell, the texture, the lightness of living in real prosperity. Fifth, sleep with a light smile on your face, like someone who already knows that fortune is on its way. Do this for 21 consecutive days and observe the changes in your abundance mindset. Neuroscience proves that 21 days are enough to start forming new neural patterns. And speaking of patterns, there is a fundamental difference between the vibrational frequency of those who have money and those who don't, and it is precisely this difference that we will reveal now. Let's talk about physics, not metaphor, not philosophy, but science. Quantum physics establishes that everything in the universe, absolutely everything, is energy vibrating at different frequencies. The chair you're sitting on, the air you breathe, the money in your wallet, everything vibrates. And just as a radio station can only be picked up by a device tuned to the right frequency, wealth and prosperity only flow naturally into energy fields that vibrate in harmony with it. This isn't mysticism, it's the practical application of quantum laws to financial life, exactly what Napoleon Hill intuitively described decades before quantum physics existed as a consolidated scientific field. The difference between the vibrational frequency of those who live in scarcity and those who live in abundance is not in the size of their salary, it's in the predominant mental and emotional pattern. People in a scarcity frequency focus on what is lacking, talk about what they don't have, make decisions based on fear, and see money as something scarce and difficult. People in an abundance frequency focus on what exists, talk about possibilities, make decisions based on confidence, and see money as fluid and renewable energy. Neuroscience confirms that these two patterns activate completely different brain circuits. One closes perception, the other expands it. One attracts financial blockage, the other attracts financial manifestation. It's the same life, seen through opposite frequencies. The path to changing your frequency doesn't begin with your bank account, it begins with your mindset and language. Pay attention over the next 24 hours to how you talk about money. Count how many times you use phrases like "I don't have money," "it's too expensive," "there's never anything left over." Each of these phrases is a frequency statement that your subconscious registers and confirms. Gradually replace them with "I am building my abundance, I am aligning my financial frequency, money is flowing more and more into my life." Biblical teachings are categorical. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Your words don't describe your reality, they create it. And speaking of creating reality with faith and conviction, I will reveal how Napoleon Hill used faith as a spiritual force to manifest wealth in a way that will surprise you. Napoleon Hill was a man ahead of his time in many ways, but nowhere more so than in his understanding of faith as an active force for financial manifestation. He wasn't talking about faith in the passive, resigned sense that many know that God willing, it will work out, said with slumped shoulders. First, God wants you to prosper in all areas of your life. Psalm 13. Hill spoke of faith as a vibrational frequency of absolute certainty, a conviction so profound and unwavering that the subconscious cannot distinguish it from already achieved reality. In biblical teachings, this definition appears with surgical precision in Hebrews 1:11. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Not hope, not desire, certainty. This is the frequency that attracts wealth. Hill described faith as the eternal elixir that gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought, and quantum physics today explains why. When the mind operates in a state of genuine faith, it emits a coherent and stable brainwave pattern, which in turn influences the surrounding energy field, creating what quantum scientists call heart coherency, a state where the heart and brain synchronize their frequencies, and the person literally begins to perceive and attract opportunities for prosperity that were previously invisible. It is no coincidence that the greatest entrepreneurs in history, from Ford to Carnegie, from Rockefeller to Jobs, were known for an irrational faith in their own success, long before any external evidence confirmed this belief. The practice of cultivating faith as an active spiritual force begins with what Hill called emotional self-suggestion, repeating your prosperity declaration not as a mechanical mantra, but with the visceral emotion of someone who has already arrived. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and for 3 minutes feel in your body, not just your mind, the gratitude of already having achieved your fortune and financial legacy. Do this with the same intensity as someone who has just received the best news of their life. Neuroscience confirms that this intense emotional state releases neuropeptides that reconfigure the Bodas cells toward the pattern you are experiencing. Literally, your biology begins to align with your faith. And if faith is the fuel, there is a specific word you use every day that is extinguishing that flame without you realizing it, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about now. Get ready, because this might be the simplest yet most impactful revelation of all this content. The word that keeps money away from your life isn't a swear word, it isn't a curse, it isn't anything extraordinary, it's so present in your everyday vocabulary that you don't even notice it anymore. That word is I can't. I can't buy that, I can't invest now, I can't prosper this way, I can't change my financial situation. Every time you pronounce these two words together in relation to money, or in relation to any other area of your life, you're not just describing a momentary limitation, you're emitting a vibrational frequency of incapacity that the subconscious registers, confirms, and expands with frightening efficiency. Neuroscience explains this phenomenon with the concept of a self-fulfilling prophecy. When the brain receives a negative affirmation repeated frequently and emotionally, it treats it as an instruction and reorganizes its perception of reality to confirm that belief. It is the most democratic financial blockage in the world because it equally affects people of all social classes: the rich who cannot risk new investments out of fear, and the poor who cannot escape scarcity due to limiting beliefs, are trapped in the same linguistic trap. Napoleon Hill was categorical: what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve, and the opposite is also true. What the mind declares impossible, remains impossible. The substitution is immediate and powerful every time I can't arises in relation to money, prosperity, or abundance. Replace it with I don't have it yet, but am building the path. It seems like a small change, but the energetic difference is monumental. I can't closes a door. I don't have it yet keeps the energy field open, receptive, and moving toward financial manifestation. Biblical teachings reinforce this with one of the most powerful promises in Scripture: all things are possible to him who believes. And believing begins with the language you use with yourself, aloud and in the silent thoughts that no one hears, but the universe picks up. Monitor your words for a week and you'll be surprised how many times this blockage appears. And if one mind alone already has all this power, imagine what happens when two minds unite around a purpose of prosperity. That's exactly what comes next. Napoleon Hill dedicated an entire chapter to the concept of mastermind in Think and Grow Rich, and most people read this chapter thinking only of business meetings and strategic partnerships. But Hill went far beyond that. He described the mastermind as the creation of a third Mindan intelligence that does not belong to any of the participants individually, but emerges from the meeting of two or more minds aligned around a common purpose. He called this coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony, and he used the word spirit completely intentionally. The mastermind is not just a business strategy, it is a spiritual and energetic phenomenon of vibrational frequency amplification. Quantum physics offers a fascinating explanation for this phenomenon through the concept of quantum entanglement. When two particles interact, they influence each other regardless of distance, as if they were one. Hill intuitively described something similar when he said that two minds in harmony create an energy field that transcends the sum of its parts. Biblical teachings confirm this universal law with one of the most powerful passages in Scripture, Matthew 18:19. If two of you on earth agree about anything you ask for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. Two, not one. Spiritual partnership multiplies the field of financial manifestation in a way that the solitary mind simply cannot achieve. The practical application of a spiritual mastermind begins with a careful choice. You need at least one person who shares your vision of prosperity, abundance, and growth, and who is committed not only to material success but also to financial and spiritual alignment. Meet weekly, in person or virtually, for at least an hour. Begin with shared gratitude, declare your purposes aloud to each other, discuss strategies and challenges, and conclude by visualizing together your shared prosperity already manifested. Neuroscience shows that when two people enter a state of simultaneous emotional coherence, the electromagnetic fields of their hearts literally synchronize, creating a shared energy field of extraordinary power. Choose your mastermind partner wisely. This decision can be the watershed moment between where you are today and the legacy you will build. And speaking of building, there is an element in your daily environment that is silently sabotaging or amplifying all of this, and that is exactly what I will reveal. There's a truth that most prosperity mentors completely overlook. You don't just live inside your mind, you live in a physical environment that constantly emits vibrational frequencies, silently and continuously influencing your energy field. Napoleon Hill spoke about the importance of surrounding yourself with symbols and stimuli that reinforce a millionaire mindset, not out of vanity, but because the environment you inhabit sends constant messages to your subconscious about who you are and what you deserve. A disorganized, neglected space lacking energetic intention communicates scarcity to your brain 24 hours a day, even while you sleep. Neuroscience confirms through studies on embodied cognition that the physical environment directly shapes thought and behavior patterns literally. Surrounding clutter creates mental clutter, and surrounding organization and beauty create clarity and expansion. Biblical teachings have always associated sacred places with carefully prepared and intentionally organized environments because our spiritual ancestors already knew that physical space and the energy field are inseparable. Quantum physics reinforces that everything vibrates, including the objects, colors, sounds, and smells of the environment where you spend most of your time. Your home, your office, your car, all of this is constantly in dialogue with your vibrational frequency, amplifying or diminishing your capacity for financial manifestation. Transforming your environment begins today, right now, without spending a penny. First, organize and thoroughly clean the space where you work and sleep. Discard what no longer serves you, because stagnant objects represent stagnant energy. Second, create a prosperity corner in your home, a small space with symbols that represent abundance for you, a book by Napoleon Hill, a candle, a live plant, an image that evokes wealth and gratitude, and visit this space daily for your financial alignment practices. Third, be mindful of what enters your ears and eyes. Gradually replace scarcity-based content with content of prosperity, spirituality, and an abundance mindset. When your external environment vibrates in harmony with your internal vibrational frequency, you create what Hill called ideal conditions for manifestation, and the universe, always precise, responds by delivering exactly what you have prepared space to receive. We've reached the end of this journey, but in truth, for you, this is just the beginning. Everything shared here isn't distant theory or philosophical concepts to admire from afar. It's real, tested tools, backed by neuroscience, quantum physics, and biblical teachings, that work for anyone willing to work from the inside out. Napoleon Hill spent decades compiling the secrets of the world's most prosperous minds and arrived at a conclusion that has never lost its validity. Wealth begins where most people never look, in the invisible energy field you carry within yourself every day. Now I need to ask you some questions that deserve an honest answer, not to me, but to yourself. Which of these topics resonated most deeply with your reality today? Can you identify your main financial block? Fear, guilt, resentment, limiting language, or an environment that vibrates scarcity? Are you asking the universe for prosperity, or are you radiating prosperity with every thought, every word, and every action? These questions have the power to completely change your financial and spiritual trajectory, but only if you stop, take a deep breath, and answer with radical honesty. I really want to know where you are on this journey, so hey, raise a special invitation. Write in the comments what your biggest financial block is today. It can be a word, a phrase, a venting session, but write it down, because the simple act of naming the block already begins to dissolve it. You'll be surprised by the power of this practice and how many people are exactly where you are. And if this content opened your eyes, touched your heart, or gave you that click you needed, imagine what the next videos on this channel will do for your life. Subscribe now, activate the notification bell, and come with us, because prosperity isn't a destination, it's a frequency, and you've just taken the first step to tune into yours.